Euzubillahimineşşeytanirracim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbi şirah li sadri ve yessir li emri ve hlul ukdeten min lisani yefkahu kavli. Allahümme salli ala seyyidina Muhammedin. Selamun aleyküm. Inshallah we will continue with 23rd word, 5th remark. In my book, this is page 342, the 23rd word, 5th remark. So the 23rd word is an interpretation of the verse which says, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, indeed we have created man on the most excellent of patterns, then sent him down to the lowest of the low, except those who believe and do good deeds.
Okay, so this is the 5th remark of the 23rd word from the 2nd chapter. Man has been sent to this world as an official and guest, and has been given abilities of great significance, and he has been entrusted with important duties in accordance with those abilities. In order to employ man in fulfilling those aims and duties, powerful encouragement and severe threats have been made. We shall here summarize the fundamentals of worship and of man's duties, which we have explained at length elsewhere, so that the mystery of the most excellent of patterns may be understood. On coming into the universe, man has two aspects of worship and being a slave of God's. One is worship and contemplation in the absence of the object of worship. One is worship and contemplation in the absence of the object of worship. The other is worship and supplication in his presence and addressing him directly. First aspect. It is to affirm submissively the sovereignty of dominicality apparent in the universe, and to observe its perfections and virtues and wonder. Then it is to proclaim and herald the unique arts which consist of the inscriptions of the sacred divine names, and to display them to others. Then it is to weigh on the scales of perception the jewels of the dominical names, which are all like hidden treasures. It is to appreciatively affirm their value in the discerning heart. Then it is to study and ponder over and wonder the pages of beings and leaves of the earth and sky, which are like missives of the pen of power. Then, through beholding admiringly the adornment and subtle arts in beings, it is to feel love for knowledge of their all-beauteous Creator, and to yearn to ascend to the presence of their all-perfect Maker, and to receive His favors. So I'm going to continue, inshallah. Okay, yeah. Second aspect. This is the station of presence and address wherein man passes from the work to the producer of the work, and he sees that the all-beauty's Maker wants to make himself known and acquainted through the miracles of his art, and he responds with knowledge and belief. Then he sees that the all-compassionate Sustainer wants to make himself loved through the fine fruits of his mercy. So confining his love and worship to him, he makes himself love him. Then he sees, I'm just going to reread that. Then he sees that an all-compassionate Sustainer wants to make himself loved through the fine fruits of his mercy. So confining his love and worship to him, he makes himself love him. Then he sees that an all-generous bestower is nurturing him with the delights of bounties, material and immaterial. And in return he offers him thanks and praise with his actions, conduct, words, and as far as he can, with all his senses and faculties. Then he sees that an all-beauteous and glorious one is announcing his tremendousness and perfections and glory and beauty in the mirrors of these beings, and is drawing attentive gazes to them. So in response he declares, God is most great, glory be to God, and in humility prostrates in love and wonder. Then he sees that a possessor of absolute riches is displaying his boundless wealth and treasuries amid an absolute munificence. So in response, exalting and praising him, he entreats and asks for them, expressing his utter need. Then he sees that an all-glorious Creator has made the face of the earth like an exhibition and displayed on it all antique works of art. So in response, he exclaims in appreciation, what wonders God has willed, and in admiration, what blessings God has bestowed, and in wonder, glory be to God, and in astonishment, God is most great. Then he sees that in his palace of the universe, a single one of unity has struck seals of unity on all beings with his inimitable signature, and with his stamps, signets, and ciphers particular to him, that he inscribes the signs of his unity, and planting the banner of unity in every region of the world, he proclaims his dominicality. And he responds with assent, belief, submission, worship, and affirmation of his unity. Thus, through worship and contemplation of this kind, he becomes a true man. He shows that he is on the most excellent of patterns. Through the auspiciousness of belief, he becomes a reliable vicegerent of the earth worthy of bearing the trust. O heedless man created on the most excellent of patterns, who through the misuse of his will is descending to the lowest of the low. Listen to me. In the heedlessness induced by the intoxication of youth, I, like you, thought the world was fine and lovely. Then the moment I awoke in the morning of old age, I saw how ugly was the world's face that was not turned towards the hereafter, which I had previously imagined to be beautiful. To see this and how beautiful was its true face, which looks to the hereafter, you may refer to the two signboards in the second station of the 17th word and see for yourself. The first signboard depicts the reality of the world of the people of neglect, which long ago, like the people of misguidance, I saw through the veil of heedlessness, but without being intoxicated. The second signboard indicates the reality of the world of the people of guidance. I left it in the form it was written long ago. It resembles poetry, but it is not truly that. And this is the end before the dua of the 23rd words, second chapter's 5th remark.
Jazakallah khair, Abdurrahman. Would you like to read prayer for us at the end? We shouldn't know if
She should read it since it was her duty.
She volunteered. It wasn't her duty.
I won't force myself upon her.
Okay.
It's a beautiful dua, but we should read it.
Okay, let me read it. Glory be unto you. We have no knowledge save that which you have taught us. Indeed, you are all knowing, all wise. O my sustainer, expand for me my breast, make easy for me my affair, and loosen the knot on my tongue, that they may understand my words. O God, grant blessings to the subtle unitary Muhammadan essence, the sun in the skies of mysteries and manifestation of lights, the center of the orbit of glory and the pole of the sphere of beauty. O God, by his mystery, in your presence, and by his journeying to you, succor my fear and right my stumbling, and dispel my grief and my greed, and be mine, and take me from myself to yourself, and bestow on me annihilation from myself, and do not make me captivated by my soul and veiled by my senses, and reveal to me all hidden secrets, O ever-living and self-subsistent one. O ever-living and self-subsistent one. O ever-living and self-subsistent one. And grant mercy to me and to my companions, to the people of belief and the Quran. Amen, O most merciful of the merciful and most generous of the generous. And the close of their prayer will be, all praise to be God, the sustainer of all the worlds. I owe an apology to Ayşenur after she dropping, turning off her connection. I thought she just ran away because she didn't want to read and moderate.
The timing, I guess, was coincidental.
Yes, just a coincidence. And now she's here. Alhamdulillah, she will guide, she will moderate the discussion. So I owe a huge apology.
Yeah, I have
So
to.
let's listen her, inshallah.
No, I mean, I have to. I didn't read the part yet because I wasn't there, so maybe someone else can catch up.
Okay.
Yeah.
HB, do you think you can trick NB to moderate the discussion?
She's a good moderator.
I think that that's a great idea, and it may be her first time moderating in some time, so inshallah we can support her. Let me just move this closer. So you have the text over there, right?
I do.
Okay. Oops, all yours.
Moderate just means ask questions, correct?
Yeah, you might want to reread the first paragraph and then ask questions.
Okay. Okay. Does that sound good with everybody?
It's great with us.
Perfect. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Man has been sent to this world as an official and guest, and has been given abilities of great significance. 1 second, I'm just gonna this here. A lot is going on in this paragraph. Okay. And he has been entrusted with important duties in accordance with those abilities. In order to employ man in fulfilling those aims and duties, powerful encouragement and severe threats have been made. We shall here summarize the fundamentals of worship and of man's duties, which we have explained at length elsewhere, so that the mystery of the most excellent of patterns may be understood. On coming into the universe, man has two aspects of worship and being a slave of gods. One is worship and contemplation in the absence of the object of worship. The other is worship and supplication in his presence and addressing him directly. I guess the first thing that caught my attention here was the double title for the human being, in that he's not only a guest, which is something we hear a lot in the discourse, but also as an official. And then there's a lot of emphasis on duties and abilities, but also how every tool and resource has been also supplied so that man can use these abilities to fulfill the duties. So it's a lot, it seems like it has a lot to do with the more official sides of things, but I guess guests also have duties. But I guess my first question would be if anyone has any other thoughts on this official and guest status of man.
Well, can anyone send us some link? I'm not sure anyone is looking at. Oh, okay, Mohammed said already did. So, Jazakumullah khair. Is there anyone here who wants to comment on the first paragraph? Or I guess Nurbanu waiting for our comments, questions about the first paragraph.
Okay. That's cool. I definitely take it personally if you guys don't say anything, so let me just throw that out there. Oh, yeah, we cannot do it.
Oh, Jazakallah. I didn't want to talk without raising my hand. That's was the reason. So since I raised now, I can talk. So maybe it's because of all these different backgrounds or cultures that we've been exposed. When somebody talks about duties or like employment, he says in order to employ men and fulfillment. Like when I hear such words, it's usually like affects me in a negative sense. It's like, what duties? Like, is he directly just talking about prayers or tasks, the religious tasks that we should do? But I guess there is also another way of looking at the duties, or another way of reading them. Duties, responsibilities, or being employed. Because it's now talking about also some abilities that I'm bestowed to fulfill these duties. I guess there's another sense here that when I catch it, at least I realize that yes, these aspects of men, humans, shouldn't be also missed. Like I'm not happy, for instance, when I think myself as someone just wandering around. I found myself in this life, I'm just wandering, looking around, enjoying, like a tourist. When you go to a foreign country, and if you are going there for a conference and you are paid, right? Everything is covered already. So you just do nothing and enjoy. Of course, the scientific event that you join, I didn't mean other things, but anyway, you just go there and enjoy. You don't have to think about anything. Like you just wander around.
Why are you looking at Yusuf?
No, I'm thinking everybody.
He's another academic. I attended such a conference out of my pocket, and I was not enjoying it.
So I wouldn't look at it. So anyway, like I found, from one sense, I found myself in this world. Everything is already sustained. I look at this little child. She doesn't care about the food. She just raised her voice just a little bit, and her mother would run like crazy. Go away, go away. I have to feed my child. She doesn't care about the warmth because her mother, father will somehow take care of it. Nothing about clothing, anything. And this is my state in this world. Every age, I find like a different ways of sustenance. It's always there. Either through my mother, through my work, through my friends, somehow it's there. So I could, for instance, wander around, as I said, and just enjoy my time. I don't care about anything. So when I think myself in such a state, I don't like it. Like I cannot accept, this may be personal, it may be different from one person to another, but for me, I cannot accept a reality in which, I'm just feeding myself and I'm waiting time to pass. But instead, when I, think myself or even childishly imagine myself as let's say, a hero or someone important, right, with a duty, to fulfill. A duty to myself, like to, you know, because I feel something, like there are a lot of things inside me waiting to be discovered. And when I think about them and I take it as a duty, a responsibility that, you know, nothing inside me should be wasted. I see such a reality as an acceptable reality. That I can accept, I can say yes. I can be pleased with a reality in which I'm trying to fulfill something. And I feel I have this urge inside me to fulfill things. So for instance, if I cannot understand something, I feel bad. I want to understand it, whatever it is. I have this urge, I have this responsibility in me, telling me you should understand this. So yes, there is such a sense of duty, such a sense of responsibility. I guess we shouldn't lose, or let's make it more personal, I shouldn't lose just because words like duty or responsibility or, I don't know, fulfillment or employment, employee, whatever. Just because they are usually used in different contexts, within different cultures, I guess I shouldn't lose the sense that I need.
So you're saying that it's something like intrinsic in your nature that you already have that, like in your nature, you already have this like sense of duty or whatever you want to call it. Like it's not really imposed upon you, but rather it's something that comes from within.
Yes.
You say it's a part of your fitra to be. So can we say that, for example, I want to be successful, which in order to achieve this, I need to work, but also I don't want to work. So if somebody tells me that you are given the abilities to become successful, work hard and become successful, and you are also given the desire to do that. So by design, it looks like you are destined to or employed for becoming successful. But I say, and if somebody gives me success out of the blue, I will happily enjoy it. But I don't want to work. I guess this part is bothering me because I am lazy. To me, it looks like this aspect is, or at least a major aspect, is my laziness. I don't want to work for it. So although I am given the ability to walk, let's say, and I enjoy walking, but there is some sort of a burden, apparent burden in there. So this is why it sounds like, well, maybe it's not that good to walk. I didn't ask for walking. If you ask me, I would say. But if I walk, I would enjoy it, and I wouldn't say that, well, take this away from me. So there's this dilemma in human. This is what makes us object for it being like a duty. But if the outcome is given to me, I wouldn't complain about it.
Nurbanu, please accept my apology. Like I raised my hand, but others also here wanted to speak. I didn't know what to do. So whichever you prefer, if you prefer us, stop talking after every person and then raise hand again, we can do it as well. Otherwise, I will continue as it is. Please guide us.
Okay. Well, Farazad, we wanted to say something. I'm checking to see who raises their hand so I can call on people and keep track. Okay. So Farazad, you can go ahead.
Okay, yes, thank you. So you asked the question about official and guest. I didn't notice until you asked, so it made me think. I found the whole passage that we read very, very basic and fundamental or existential, if you want to call it that. And in that larger context, I thought to myself that is this true of me? And so that I am a guest and official, and it feels like it can be said of me that I found myself here in a place. I didn't bring anything, pack anything with myself. I just found myself, just like if I was a guest somewhere, I would just show up. I wouldn't bring everything with me. It seems like I've showed up in the world, come to consciousness of my existence and just find myself. Wow, here I am. And in that sense, I'm waiting for something to happen. I find myself here without actually trying to reach here and arrive here. I just found myself. So this aspect of me, I'm just trying to speak to your question about official and guest. When I think about myself, I do think that, here I am. And to say guest is, in one sense, I just found myself here. Another sort of the implication is, well, there should be a host. And so I'm waiting, I guess. I'm expecting something. So what is this about? Or like, where am I? And so I have expectations, and I'm waiting for something to happen, waiting to see, maybe waiting to find out meaning. If you want to maybe, put words into my mouth, maybe I would say yes. But then there's also this official aspect, which is that if I were only a guest, I wouldn't have all these things that I find myself settled with. All these feelings and capacities and questions and where I find myself, some sort of a relation to it. And so it seems the idea of official maybe suggests that, don't you think you have so many like capacities and abilities, and that they should have a purpose? And so the official aspect, I think, looks to the purpose, because I find myself saddled with, or if you want to get a better word, or whatever word you want to use, but I find myself in the possession of, or just different kind of abilities to see, to wonder, to feel good about something, to see beautiful things, to love something, to not like. So I have all these capacities, and they should have a purpose, it seems. I mean, why are they there? So it seems as an official, I should ask, well, am I tasked with something? So I have all these like tools in my being, and there's this huge universe that I'm in. So the questions about purpose maybe look to this idea of being an official, that what is my purpose? What's the purpose of this world and my tools? And the guest, like I said, it's kind of like I find myself here and I'm waiting for something. So maybe these are two aspects of the same person, that maybe in one stage I'm thinking, okay, I'm here, looks like somebody brought me here, I didn't bring myself, so I'm a guest. But maybe to really feel like a welcome guest, or like, if you want to add that word, like a real like a guest that happy to take on that, like yes, okay, I'm a guest. Maybe something related to using my tools. Maybe if I don't use my tools, what I have with me. So on the one hand, I'm just passive, find myself here, somebody do something, somebody take care of me. Someone say shh. And then the other official. So sorry, I think my time is
up. Yeah, I was just thinking about that too, Farazabi, and you can join back in anytime you feel comfortable again. But the difference I was thinking of is exactly that. When we think of guest, we think of just like transient, intermediate place. And as you said, if you're a guest, there must be a host. And guests are at the mercy of the host, right? And in a good case, you would be taken care of by the host. So I think there is a like deep connection between the guest and the official title, because even though guest is like a very humbling kind of title, you didn't choose, like, for at least for us, we don't choose to come here. But then once we are here, we are completely at the mercy of some other being, right? Who is taking care of us, who we observe, I guess, is taking care of us. But then, as Birkanabi was mentioning, being an official is like purposeful, it's elevating, it's much more like exciting. And I think one thing that the host maybe does is to take care of this need, in that, yeah, like you're expecting something, but I'm gonna give you the abilities and duties in accordance with those abilities to go after that line of questioning you have. So that's kind of like the first paragraph. If anyone else has anything to say, raise your hand now or forever hold your silence. Otherwise, I'm gonna go to the next little paragraph, in which we read, okay.
Raise a hand.
Oh, okay. Here, Kanabi, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to say one small point about what Faraz said about, being a guest and like expecting a host. And I would say that, it depending on the level or the greatness of the host, you might not actually see the host, right? If you're, I don't know, if you're seeing like a magnificent king, he has very other important matters. He can't be going around and spending all his time with his guests. And I guess maybe that's the waiting period of this life. We're just in the lobby hanging out. So that was I don't know if that makes any sense.
I guess there is always this waiting period of every thing that we observe, which I guess he will call it as contemplation in the absence of the object of worship. But then from this lobby, as you said, or waiting room, you go to the other aspect, which is worship and supplication in his presence. So, and he talks about these two as two different aspects, not as like you leave one of them in this world and then the second one comes, but rather for everything that you experience, you like interact with the thing that you being served, for instance, food. You can maybe take it as the waiting period. You enjoy the food, and then from this food you pass to his presence. But I guess he will discuss all this. So anyway, let me.
Farazabi, you can go ahead.
Okay, sorry, I feel bad. Okay, maybe next time, just a suggestion that maybe all the Bitcoin group, maybe if they finish, then I can go. So if they want to go first, it's fine. I had a very small comment. But anyway, now I have the mic. So I want to just say that from guest to host in this particular reading, maybe I don't want to jump too quickly because there's a possibility when, that there's sometimes a small difference between being guest and being a hostage, that you are now trapped here in this place and I am the host and now you must be the guest. And it's not a comfortable position. I don't know if you've been guest in people's houses. Sometimes being guest is not comfortable because you are at the, like you said, at the mercy of another. And so I think that, therefore, I think the way the passage moves on, it will be interesting. So I think the fact of being a guest is not enough, and that's interesting. It's the passage, what he will go on to say, suggests to me that simply saying that I'm a guest, and since I'm a guest, and since there must be a host, and now all of those different kind of duties apply to me from the fact of being a guest. That's not the case. Because between the fact of being a guest, or from the fact of being guest, which means not here on my own, of my own volition, not bringing myself here, not responsible for maintaining this house of the world where I am. Between this and worship, something will mediate. So it is not possible, or at least I think it's not possible, I want to say, but in the passage, there are things, different kind of actions, such as seeing, reading, contemplating, being aware of something, that one would be guest and not hostage, and not or joyfully accepting the status of the guest and joyfully being comfortable as a guest. So just because I'm guest, I can't be comfortable. So there will be something more, I feel, not simply the fact of being guest. So because that can mean I'm just hostage here. So anyway, maybe it doesn't make sense, but maybe when we read more, I have a feeling that we should ask what makes the guest so comfortable being a guest.
Silly crowd, go ahead.
Well, okay, the first, Faraz gave me a second comment to make, but the first one I was going to make was about the lobby idea, which I enjoyed thinking that I was waiting in God's lobby. I've never thought of that, but I think it's wrong to say such a thing, because for a king, that's very great. He's limited by time, so that is why you wait, or he can't come and deal with you. But if we're talking about a king which has no limit to his grace and to his time and to his power, then there is no such thing as waiting. The second you are in that palace, then you will be greeted, and you will then be dealt with accordingly, like how he wishes to deal with you. And the comment about the hostage, I think it's very blunt, but it's very true. We are hostages. No, because we can't do anything else, because he created us in such a way that you can't just now leave the palace or go do whatever you want to do. You are a hostage. This is a very blunt language, but it's true. However, hostage kind of has this connotation that it's like something you don't enjoy or you don't like. And I guess this is where the guest part comes in. Because yes, you are a hostage, and you're only here by his grace, and you can't go and do what you like. You're still his. He is still the host. However, he gives you the grace of being a guest. He deals with you in such a way that you feel like you are a guest in his creation. Let's say, and that's all I had to say. But she also was about to say something.
It's already been said with Brother Faraz and Dr. Rahman, but yeah, I was just going to say I think we should be careful with analogies. They can only take us so far, and only for a specific point. But even if I am in the lobby of my Creator, I'm in His presence at every moment through my interaction with the furniture, or with the specific lighting, or just any aspect of it. When I take the analogy to what it's pointing to, I don't think there's any moment in which I'm absent from His presence. Every single part of my experience in the lobby, if you will, is being, I can't think of the analogy word, just created for me by my host. And in terms of, I guess, the hostage situation, I mean, there isn't really like an alternative to going outside and doing something else anyway. You know, that's non-existence. That's not something I have any experience with. It's not even possible for me to imagine it. I'm just here. And as was said, depending on the worldview in which I'm bringing myself to live, it can be hellish or it can be under a constant state of compassion.
Question.
Faraz Abi, you can go, and when you mute yourself, Yusuf Abi can go.
Yeah, sorry. Absolutely, I see what Aishanur and I think Abdul Rahman are saying. I agree with it. I just wanted to, for myself, I feel that if I start by saying that being guest, I have this wonderful host and so I'm not a hostage. Well, first of all, it is not my reality, except when I make a certain kind of choice, which here Nursi would call belief. And, you know, at the end, he would say when he was young or in his youthful, he was engaging with those beauties in a way that was, he was seeing something beautiful turned out to be ugly. That's real, you know, that is, so it's a conscious choice. If you read the passage, we will read hopefully, one by one, the passage will start, and to see, and to read, and to contemplate, and to, these are the duties. So if you just declare yourself that there is no hostage possibility, which told me like a symbol for everything is not beautiful and I'm in a terrible situation. So this is possibility is possible there because I am free to interpret where I am. So the fact of guestness needs something more now, that I'm a guest, and so now what kind of place I'm in, and then what does that tell me about, you know, the two aspects people talk about. First will simply be appreciating that I'm in a beautiful place. But that's a choice, because you don't have to think you're in a beautiful place. You can look at it and you can say, no, it's not a good place. You can say, no, it's not as beautiful as I would like it to be. Only, you know, because it passes, as the end of the thing will say, but only when he brought the aspect of the hereafter did that become beautiful. So we shouldn't forget this, thinking that we can simply enjoy or claim that we are very happy guests without realizing that only because we are, when we see that hereafter dimension, which we see because of the passing of things, because of their ugliness. So we should be, you know, at least I think the passage is trying to tell us that you will come to the host, but between being a guest and coming to being comfortable as a guest, that's the choice of belief that you will make, and that belief will mean looking at certain things and doing worship in the ways that he will talk about. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say. That's my experience.
I will continue. I guess my point disappeared.
I was going to ask a question, but kind of already actually touched on that. So like, I understand, and I also find myself like oftentimes in a situation that like life is like more like a turmoil and tribulation rather than just being this like headed child and like everything is given to you. But like at the same time, I'm not sure if I would call it as hostage, because in hostage situation, your will is completely taken away from you. So like, I get the tribulation part, but like, do we feel it to a point that actually we feel that like we have no free will? That is the question.
The way I understood when Faraz was talking about a hostage, at least this is my understanding, he didn't suggest it as a solution or as like a conclusion. Rather, the way I understand, he said, like he talked about the hostage because there are all these different possibilities that a human being can feel in this life. He can feel himself as an honorable guest. He can feel himself as a hostage. He can feel himself as being tricked. Somebody is deceiving me. What's going on? All these troubles. My mother died. Oh, look at now my father passed away. And now I was fired from work. What's going on? So I guess the point is we shouldn't conclude right away from the memory that, oh yeah, we are honorable guests and author is talking about this, but rather we should first look at our reality that we didn't choose to come. Yeah, that's true. And it seems like we're enjoying some stuff which are given to us. So it seems like we are a host, the guest, but what kind of guest we are and what's going on around, we should make contemplation and we should come to the conclusion whether we are honorable guests or we are captives here as a hostage. This is what I understood.
I agree that, we can feel, you can feel different ways about existing here, that we are guests, we are not, we're hostages, or, we're just bundled up and thrown into some random world. But I would argue against the idea that we weren't given a choice in coming to this earth. I mean, I believe there's a hadith that says that, Allah gathered the souls and, he asked every creation whether they wanted to be sent to earth and tried, and everybody said no except for humans, and so here we are. And so I know it probably feels like we don't have a choice, but, in terms of belief, I think, that event happened and we just don't remember it.
If I don't remember it, do I have responsibility over it?
If you signed up for it, yeah.
But I don't remember that memory has not been given to me. If I'm going to push back, I'm just.
That's the importance of belief. You don't have to believe me, or you can choose.
No, I'm just saying that's like the. That's like an immediate thought that.
Because yeah, for sure. I can't answer.
No meaning.
It depends on the idea if there's a unifying sense of self, right?
Did you hear? I would like to say something.
Thank you. So I was thinking about how, again, going back to the idea of the hostage versus the guest, what is it that makes one a hostage and one a guest? Because the first thing that comes to mind is, as the brother brought up, the free will. If I find myself in a situation where I didn't choose, does that make me a hostage of the situation or the situation I find myself in? And then I was thinking about a bird, for example. A bird in a cage is a hostage because it's limited to the sphere of the cage. But if I were to let it out free and it were to roam freely in the forest or whatever, in the park, would that then make the bird a guest as opposed to a hostage? Isn't there still some sort of limitation, a restriction to the bird's ability to roam? So it's not necessarily, I think, I can't say I am a hostage of something because I am not absolute, that my power is not all encompassing. Because by virtue of having been created it is in my, or by definition, I am a limited being. It's in my nature. It's I can't change the, for lack of a better word, like the DNA of my existence. And so I think when it comes to being a hostage, it's not necessarily having this all-encompassing, infinite, unending sphere of influence or knowledge or power or wisdom or compassion or mercy, but rather, given what I am given, the abilities and the tools, do I have the opportunities, or am I given the opportunities to utilize them in the way that they can be utilized, in the way that they're meant to be utilized? So when I look at my these, great abilities and duties, like I have this need for a meaningful existence, is it within the freedom or sphere of making a preference? Is it accessible for me to be given a meaningful existence, or is it outside of my power, or is it outside of what is accessible to me? Because if, for example, I am made to fly, or a bird is made to fly, but it's always tied down, then that would be a hostage. But if the bird is allowed to roam freely, even within a limited sphere, then it can, it can't be infinite in and of itself. Then
it wouldn't be a bird.
Yeah, that's just changing the definition of its, the fabric of its existence in a way. I don't know if that entirely made sense, but those are half a cent.
Oh,
Oh wait.
Philly. Oh yeah. Oh.
Wait, who changed it? You didn't do it.
No, I didn't do anything. But Philly crowd, you guys had something to say. If you still want to, go ahead. If not, maybe we can move on. So let me know.
It's not too important, but at least the way I read the text is the author, he's just telling us that when he looks at his life, and maybe when he looks at others' life, the way he perceives others' life, he thinks a human being is here bestowed with many abilities and have different feelings, different senses, different understanding of reality, in which he or she thinks himself, herself as having some duties to fulfill. This is how author he experiences life. And I guess the question is, rather we can find different alternatives theoretically or not. I guess the question is whether I feel I experience the same thing or not. And when I look at my life, I easily say yes. I look at myself, I see all these abilities. For instance, I can talk now, which is a huge ability. I can walk, I can think, I can get angry, I can dislike something, I can even hate another thing. So all these abilities, and I can understand things, all these abilities ask for fulfillment. And I find myself as on duty to fulfill them. My intellect tells me that you can look around you, all these things happening, make sense of them. And I have this responsibility, I have this duty to fulfill it. All my feelings tells me that something strange is happening. Try to be in peace with them. And I have this responsibility, this duty to fulfill this. And so on, I guess. Next, he will explain better. But this is how I see, rather than all these different theoretical possibilities. We could be this, we could be that. What I feel like, what I experience like.
Okay, thank you. So we can either go further into these important duties with abilities and fulfilling them, because I think Birkan, you're right that not everyone feels the same sort of pull, even if they recognize that they have these abilities, they don't necessarily mean anything, or they don't come with some sort of condition in which you have to fulfill them. So that's one thing we can talk about. Another interesting part in this first paragraph is the powerful encouragement and severe threats. But then actually the next thing on my mind was this mirroring of the two aspects of worship. So Nursi says, one is worship and contemplation in the absence of the object of worship, and the other is worship and supplication in his presence and addressing him directly. So we have some sort of like move maybe, or maybe they coexist from contemplation to supplication. And it seems, I don't know if it's like temporally like that, if you have to go through the contemplation first to get to supplication, or if even after you get to be in the presence, you still keep contemplating. So if you guys have any thoughts about any of those, raise your hand. Silly crowd. Love you guys. Okay, go ahead.
So just a very short backtrack. When he says official and guest, in the original language he was using memur for official. So memur means the one under command, somebody under command, memur. So,
Under emir.
Emir, yes. So, but guest is the one that is being served. So in my life, do I see both aspects, or do I feel like I am a spoiled guest, or do I feel like I am exclusively under the command of someone? As if the author is saying that there are two aspects of you. So be aware of these two aspects. In a sense, ahsen-i takvim, the most excellent of patterns, as if he's explaining it as a sweet spot in between these two. Because I might have a very gloomy worldview in which I feel like, well, I cannot drink, Mercury. I want to drink mercury, but I am
Drink poisons.
Okay, I am commanded to drink water, for example. I might be that much of a gloomy person. On the other hand, I might be a person of like very exploited child, as if saying that just we are here to enjoy, happy, or even if I might be concluding that there must exist a source of existence and just enjoy whatever. So there is this balance, as if I'm trying to see that author is, maybe we will read the following paragraphs, but defining some sort of a balance in between these two aspects of man as the most excellent of patterns. And maybe along these lines we can read these two aspects of contemplation and the absence of the object of worship, and the worship and supplication in his presence. So what does it mean that it is like contemplation and then supplication? how do they address these two aspects? Is it having a direct relationship?
That's really, I think, okay.
I just had a thought, and if nobody else has anything to say, we can move on. But I initially didn't like Mohammed Saidabi. You can go ahead, actually.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum. I would like to focus on it was already focused on by the people. The passage from duties to worship, and it is very similar to actual passage from hostage to being a hostage to a being host in my world. They were connected. Now, for example, I am trying to help someone here that he's trying to put his shoes, and I find myself really like his call is irresistible to me, that although I am in a discussion and I pay attention, I would like to focus on this discussion, but his call to me is irresistible. I find myself with this urge to go and help him. I feel like this is a very interesting moment, because really, is it him making me like in this situation? He's a young boy. Am I serving him, or this feeling, this sense of let's say help with me that I find myself with is an operation of someone else on me, neither this young boy nor the things around me in the universe, and the logical and a conclusion that fits in my humanity is that I am not the maker of my feelings, and nothing around me can be the maker of my feelings. We are all in need of maker. With this perspective, when I approach this sense of help while I'm helping this young boy, then my feeling becomes a means for me to connect with something else. I think this is the passage from duties to duties becoming worship. Like, I'm using the same sense as a duty. I'm gonna do it in this way or the other way. But when I contemplate on it, when I contemplate on it, and this very sense becomes a means for me to acknowledge something else, and that I call my maker. Just wanted to highlight this point, this passage from helping, and the same help being worship.
Thank you. And Farazabi said in the chat that this contemplation is key, and that he echoes Said. And each experience needs this contemplation to be worship. This reminds me of the lobby example that we were talking about earlier, which I didn't initially like that much, because there's something dull about lobbies. Nobody likes waiting in a lobby. But as Aisha Nur pointed out, and seeing one other person, even the things in the lobby have like significance. So maybe the move from this contemplation to supplication is just saying that it starts there, in that in the absence of the object of worship, we kind of make do with what we have. Farazabi says, waiting time is opposite of haste. Patience is to stop to contemplate. Farazabi, do you want to speak, maybe, and share more of your thoughts?
No, thank you, Nurbanu. I think as we will read the text, I think what Said said is just tremendously helpful for me. It's just wonderful. To me in my real life, that is the difference. That moment of contemplation is the difference between just being saddled with burdens versus finding my absolute source with his names that I can just take pleasure in and enjoy as a guest. That's just, it's just, so I'm just happy with that and thought, and we can keep reading as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. So I'll start reading the first aspect. Okay. First aspect. It is to affirm submissively the sovereignty of dominicality apparent in the universe, and to observe its perfections and virtues in wonder. Then it is to proclaim and herald the unique arts which consist of the inscriptions of the sacred divine names, and to display them to others. Then it is to weigh on the scales of perception the jewels of the dominical names, which are all like hidden treasures. It is to appreciatively affirm their value with the discerning heart. There's just so much going on there that if anyone has any thoughts. Oh, Prazab, go ahead.
So not any kind of detailed thoughts while others are preparing their remarks. I would, as a filler, I can say that it's interesting that in this passage, as far as I can see, what he says, he talks about arts, inscriptions, with scales of jewels of dominical names, pondering over the pages, admiring the adornment and arts. If you notice here, although he says sacred, divine names, it is really the name. So what is important to say is, for me, I encounter the names before I encounter the names of God. In other words, there is art. If I don't look and appreciate the art and the beauty around me, I'm affected by it. I don't say that, oh, I read in a text that the world is beautiful. If I'm not affected by, if I'm not actually seeing, wow, I'm studying and pondering over and saying that, wow, this is really amazing, powerful, power is at work. Art is here. These are the contemplations these are the names that I get in touch with, and that in the second aspect will then become something. And that's very important for me, because these very names are what send me to hell. If there wasn't something to appreciate, I wouldn't mind losing it. I wouldn't mind it being just wasted and for nothing. And so I have to, really get in touch with these wonderful names. And to me, this is where the vulnerability comes in. In human life, people are afraid to love each other, because they feel vulnerable. Love is a beautiful thing. but they want to be separate, away from this love of beauty. Why? Because they know very well that this could hurt them. And that's true, because if you don't approach it, as we will learn in the second aspect, from a certain way, or as Said had said, it will definitely take you to hell. So this is, but it is important to see that if, you cannot get to that second stage of really feeling like a wonderful guest without first getting in touch with these names. If somebody thinks they can really appreciate the beauty of God without really appreciating the beauty of things around them, or beauty in things around them, or they see from fear that they of any kind, I don't think it's possible to get there. So on the one hand, it's a challenging thing. He makes it a first aspect, contemplate the beauty. But I don't know how people feel, but when I look into my life, the beautiful things, how much I ponder and appreciate the art and beauty, it's a question I have to ask myself. Do I admire the adornment? Why or why not? What makes me blink in admiring the adornment? So it's a kind of process of thought.
Philly crowd, go ahead.
Oh, it's me. Yeah, sorry I'm a little late. I wanted to make a comment a little earlier when we were talking about the last paragraph before the first aspect, on like worship, contemplation, and supplication. This reminded me of an ayah in Surah Al-Imran where Allah is talking about those who remember Him standing, sitting, and lying down, and reflect on the creation of the heavens and earth. And then immediately in the same ayah, it goes into a dua where, they say, our Lord, you have not created all of this without purpose. You're far above that. And so protect us from the torment of the fire. So I thought that was, interesting. That, went directly from contemplation to supplication. Mm-hmm. And that it was, through contemplating the reality, they were able to determine, that it wasn't for no reason. That it's not just like, we're not just here to enjoy this life aimlessly. There's something to it.
Awesome.
In the first aspect, it is to affirm submissively sovereignty of the dominicality present in the universe, and to observe its perfections and virtues in wonder. So, I don't know if the word dominicality is means anything to anybody.
Sounds like dominion.
Because it's not a word that is used in an everyday language. I found it interesting that actually, he started with that as this first aspect and first step. So, at the first aspect, he talks about the worship and contemplation in the absence of the object of worship, right? So you just look at the universe itself, which is what is available to you, immediately what's available to you. When we look at the universe, do we observe or do we see a sovereignty of dominicality that is apparent? Because then observing the perfection and the virtues comes after that. In other words, since we talked about feeling also as a hostage in the universe, in order for someone to be able to talk about a dominicality, which the original language is the Rububiyyah, there's an end purpose for it. So it takes you from one point to another point with an overall plan, with some sort of aim and purpose. And as you go through that process, that's your own like enrichment process that like you تصفي
Cleansing, purification.
purification, yeah. So it's your own purification process. So you see a will, you see a knowledge immediately, you see a power over the existence. So like, is that really apparent like to us, or do we even like, when you look at the universe, do you see that kind of manifestation of Rububiyya?
So the way I understand the part that you said, like he's starting with this, I take it as like he's giving the summary, the conclusion first. When you observe reality, this is what you conclude. You see the sovereignty of Rububiyya, the sustainer, and submit to this order, observes its perfection and virtues in wonder, he says. He gives the take-home message, kind of, and then explains it further. This is how I take it. So how you come to this point, how you submit to an order that you observe, how you first maybe observe that there's a sustainer and I am under his command or under his dominion, sovereignty. How you come to this conclusion, you take all these steps. I'm not sure the steps are like a right word to capture. Like, I don't think he's talking about a recipe that you should apply in a temporal order. He's talking about different things that you can observe, experience in reality. I usually read, such things when he writes in such a way. Like he gives us the summary, conclusion, and then further explains. This is how I feel like this.
I think it's not like levels, right? It's not steps, like you're just moving up. I think it's more like a cyclical process, right? You start at one point and you can follow it to another point, but then it starts again and it sort of reinforces itself. I don't know. So I think what that means is you can start on any level and just get yourself in the loop. You don't have to start at any first, second, third point. It just goes on. Like you said, you could start at contemplation. You could start at seeing the wonders of the world, and then that leading you to there's a Lord. Or you could start the other way around, and then that leads you to contemplating. God created all this in a systematic way, and whatever else. It doesn't have to be linear.
So I think there's maybe a large difference between the first aspect and second aspect is still in the first aspect there's a distance between me and my maker. I am observing the art or the dominion or the, let's say, as we were talking in the retreat, I am seeing that the water is being gifted to me. So I am appreciative of, let's say, the water, but still there's a distance between me and the giver of water, because when drinking water, to be honest, I'm not feeling like as if the giver of water is pouring the water into my mouth. Yeah, so I don't feel it that close. Still, there's a gap between me and him. So, but still, I am not denying him. If I'm a little bit conscious when I'm drinking water, I'm saying that, yeah, this water cannot do not exist by itself. It cannot quench my thirst, so on and so forth. I am happy with the way I am interacting through water, let's say, but then still there's some sort of a gap. So, but in the second aspect, the author is describing a different way of interaction. In the first one, I am more in the recipient side. I am more passive as if in the first one. I mean, my only action in the first one is contemplation. But in contemplation, as if I am passively receiving something, evaluating something. But completing the cycle or getting closer to this source, it's not being captured in the first aspect completely. So I guess this one is required. How am I going to be engaged with this source or him? Because this is what I am in need of. Let's say I love my daughter, and when I'm at work, my wife sends pictures of the day, and I just enjoy looking at the pictures. But still, when I come home, I want to hug her, like press her a little bit. So, I mean, this is
push her too
Don't make me call some authorities.
but like the two are different, definitely different. So at work, I might be showing pictures of my daughter to others and just enjoy with the beauty of my daughter as well.
But like even, I agree with you, but even like after the first aspect, coming to the second aspect, within the first aspect itself, in order to be really experience that joy and the perfection, I felt like author is suggesting that like you should be able to really observe the dominicality of the creator.
Mm-hmm.
Because like imagine that like what would be a good example? Zainab, like that joy, that perfection that you experienced, Zainab, and you would do anything for her well-being, right? For her to continue her existence. But again, like the moment that she was born into this world, actually, she's destined to death again. So if that is your reality, together with the feeling that you experience for her, do you take that as actually someone set up this life in a way to torture human being? Or do you feel that whoever he is, you don't know at this stage, he set it up in a way that actually he is your Lord, and there is an rububiyyat or dominicality acting in the universe that actually takes you from, again, like from one point to another, or from one state to another state within that relationship. Because I feel like if all I see in the universe is just pain and separation and agony, how am I gonna like get like rububiyyat out of this? Because in rububiyyat there is actually mercy. There is someone actually who knows about you, who knows about your needs, and who knows about where you need to be, and so that like he paves the way for you to be there.
Yes.
Because I feel like if one cannot really, that's why I said like it's in turn steps, because if I cannot see that in the universe, what perfection can I really speak of at all? The art itself, that like it is true that we experience, wouldn't it be like actually almost like someone like mocking you in a way? Like it is so like beautiful, but at the same time, since there is art and you are by nature you are in love with art and perfection, it's almost like mocking you, saying that like this is how I can torture you. So how can you really enjoy the art in wonder if you are not able to really experience the rububiyyat at the first place?
there are many comments, so that the moderator could decide. Like, we have some stuff to say here on our end, but I'm muting so that others can.
Faraz Abbe has made a few comments, but since they were live during Osman Abbe's time, maybe Faraz Abbe, you can speak a little bit more to the things you wrote.
Just adding my voice to agreeing with Osman here, and just noticing that, there's a huge difference between enjoying beauty of the child and enjoying dominical beauty or sacred beauty when I'm interacting with the child. And once we realize that, then I think it wouldn't be that in the first one there's a huge gap or distance between. I mean, there is to me, the first part is actually contemplating and realizing, and the second aspect is somehow the response to that realization that comes. And so I think sometimes we think that just looking at the beauty is the first worship, but I think Osman was rightly emphasizing that I must be able to see, because just seeing beauty is actually terrible. It's not fulfilling because it comes with all the other things. And only when we are able to see that this is a dominical art, that this is not, and then that is the enjoyment, that is the result of the contemplation that we yearn for and we find ourselves loaded with, and that is the realization that creates a duty to respond, if you may. That is the kind of yearning, because it resolves a problem. It resolves this. It gives meaning to my yearning for beauty or my appreciation for beauty. It makes it meaningful. Otherwise, it is not meaningful yet. So I was just trying to really nodding my head and trying to, force myself to agree with Osman that he is right, and this is correct, that dominical art is not the same as art. So just that.
Okay. Mohammed Said Abi said, "How can one see dominical divine art?" And Philly crowd is raising their hand, so you guys can say what you wanted to say, and also you can address that question if you have any thoughts.
So, looking for the past parts of this text, so he started from human's neediness and how human is being provided. So I think in this fifth remark, now we are making a transition. Yes, seeing my neediness and me being provided. So as I contemplate on that, I think this is what I can end up, not must, but can end up seeing in terms of this dominicality. So not as art, but art of a provider, of a beautiful one. So the gap that I was trying to say, maybe still I'm not saying it properly after those explanations, but to me, in the previous analogy, it feels like as if I am seeing the picture of Zainab from the work environment. I am, as a metaphor, I am observing the minion, the beautiful art, and I am seeing or sensing a beautiful artist behind the scenes, but still the interaction part, the response, the feeling for having response is what is going to complete the picture for me as a human. Like as far as I understand in here, author is saying that me being in the most excellent pattern is going to be complete when I complete the response. In the example, it would be as if hugging the daughter and just enjoying her. Because now this is becoming not only a one-way relationship in which I was just a recipient and I was saying, yeah, she is cute and at home, but now I am appreciating her beauty by responding to her and making it a two-way relationship. This is what's satiating me in terms of this exemplary relationship. So in terms of my relation with the beautiful one, how can I establish this sort of a satisfaction? So how am I going to hug the beautiful one? So what is going to be my two-way relationship? I guess this is where it is boiling down to, as far as I understand.
And this is what is being studied in second aspect, isn't it? Because the whole second aspect is about responses.
Yeah, I think that's why, like, I also agree with Faraz that your observation, contemplation, then like response comes as in like natural, like how do you say, reaction to it. That like you start like communicating, which in the text like defined as supplication. I also like I just realized that isn't that the same pattern also in Fatiha? You start with like Rabbul Alamin, which is like a distance, but you still there also you realize the rububiyyah of the creator. Then as like the surah progress, like it becomes like more like an iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in.
As you
so
start
like then,
realizing your needs in the surah, because
so
we
like,
ask.
Then it becomes like a direct communication with the creator. It seems like it is the same.
Ordering.
Yeah, here in the text.
One comment I have, which is related to all this being discussed.
Without raising hand. Go ahead.
I did raise physically. Like in the paragraph before the first aspect, he kind of summarizes two aspects. And when talking about the first aspects, he says, one is worship and contemplation. Worship, still worship. One is worship and contemplation in the absence of the object of worship. So this is what reminds me that you look at your life, all these things that you experience, all these needs that you experience, all these desires that you have, you look at them, you see them being sustained. You don't know who's sustaining them, but you experience that they are being sustained. And I guess this experience makes it a worship. Otherwise, as being said several times, just realizing that things are beautiful, just realizing that, oh yeah, there's an order in the universe. It's just looking, I guess, because everybody says there's an order. Even the most aggressive, the atheist would say, yes, there's an order. Maybe he or she would use different words. They would say, oh, there's chaos, meaning there's an order that we observe as chaos, whatever. Like, order is already there. Beauty is always there. Like, I don't know any kind of people, maybe in some moments, but like in terms of ideologies, at least I don't know anyone who would say, oh no, there is no beauty, I never seen anything beautiful in my life. There is beauty out there, you can see them, but see them as a response or as a sustenance for your need for beauty is something else, I guess. Realizing that they are being given to you to fulfill, to sustain, to satisfy your need for beauty, this is what makes it worship. Yes, in this first aspect, there is no object of worship around you. You just realize that it's being sustained.
So really helpful. By who?
Yes, by whom you have no idea, maybe, but at least you can see these qualities, that you see the quality of being sustained, rather than seeing an order which somehow creates itself and then manages itself. You see an order which is put there by someone so that your need for order is sustained. This is what I understand from first aspect. That you realize your needs and you realize the fulfillment or sustenance of these needs. And when Faraz said, like, beautiful, just seeing beauty is not by itself is something good, he even took another step saying that it's even bad. So it sounds like radical to say such thing, but when I think, especially the responses of myself or people around me, it's easier to see from others maybe these kind of things, not because I don't do it, but if I'm walking with somebody and hypothetically speaking, she or he sees something beautiful, the response is never, wow, it's beautiful, you have, like, hurrah. It's not like this, right? The response is usually, oh, it's so beautiful, as if like starting to cry. So I think this is not just a coincidence, because right after seeing beauty, we realize that it's going away. Like, it won't be with you forever. Sometimes you see just a picture, it's beautiful, but it's not in your grasp. So it's so beautiful, like crying, right? Or even if it's in your grasp, like you see something beautiful in the tree, you have to take at least 150 pictures. Otherwise, you will continue walking. To secure it.
But you can't.
So, exactly. So just seeing beauty by itself, it's not worship, definitely. It's not, something gives you enjoyment by itself. At least, let's say, enjoyment that you need. But seeing the beauty and then realizing that I need to see something beautiful, and here it is. Such a, satisfactory design, such a satisfactory life given to me. I guess this is the first aspect, like worshipping in the absence of object of worship, like Gaibi worship, without knowing who is providing, realizing that you are being provided.
And I guess in here, Gaibi also means he is not present for me. He exists, but he is not readily accessible. He is not present right here. I know that he is there. I know that. And to me, this is how it feels like when in discussion we talk about when I prove the existence of the Creator. To me, really, proof of existence of Creator is Gaibi. I am saying that such a thing must exist somewhere, but not right here. Like this presence is missing in that part of thing. It's necessary because without having this step, I'm not going anywhere for sure. But in the job, proving the existence of beauty 10 blocks away is something very good of a thing. But still, there is something in me which says, okay, the time should come and I go home to hug the daughter. I guess this part is the second aspect, which is going to complete me.
If anyone has anything else to say. Oh, Mohammed Saidadi, go ahead.
For the absence of the object of worship, it also it might mean, that's how I think at this moment. Give me a moment, please, Jacob. based on just an addition of what has been said by Yusuf, by Birkan on this subject, that it implies to me that at the same time I'm expecting to reach an object, an object in the sense that, like, this is it is being done. I am observing myself. Everything is when I contemplate on it, I think everything is kind of a miracle, because I don't see them being capable of making themselves. I don't see anything, any capability within my observation that can be the source of these things. So this observation also comes with this expectation of an object, because I think there we can say maybe must be, because I see it, I see the work, and I see this communication between my needs and the universe around me. So there must be an object of an agent or behind this, doing this. Just want to share this.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. So I'll just finish reading the first aspect, and then if there are no more comments, we can start on the second aspect, although we are running out of time. But let me just finish reading. Okay, so the last part I read was, then it is to weigh on the scales of perception the jewels of the dominical names, which are all like hidden treasures. It is to appreciatively affirm their value with the discerning heart. Then it is to study and ponder over in wonder in the pages of beings and leaves of the earth and sky, which are like missives of the pen of power. Then, through beholding admiringly the adornment and subtle arts in beings, it is to feel love for knowledge of their all-beauteous Creator, and to yearn to ascend to the presence of their all-perfect Maker, and to receive his favors. So my initial reaction to this passage is that there, even though maybe within the first aspect itself, there's no temporal kind of which comes first, but it seems to me by the end there needs to be this sort of yearning, and maybe this is what Birkanabi was pointing to with, at the end of the day you still want to go and feel the real thing, kind of. So after you've kind of gotten all the signs of this all-perfect Maker, there's this yearning to ascend to the presence. And also I think Farzad has said earlier that supplication is a sort of reaction or result after the contemplation process. So that could also be on par. If anybody has any thoughts, raise your hands. If not, I'll Philly crowd. Go ahead.
Just one point about it is to appreciatively affirm their value with the discerning heart. So I like this part, the sentence, phrase. So I just want to highlight, like when you see, when you realize that what is before you is something very valuable. You sense it, you realize it. It's not just something, I don't know, it's not just something beautiful. It's not just something elegant, whatever, all these words that we use. But it's something valuable. It's worth something, like from you, a response. It's asking for a response. The things that's in front of you. It says scales of weigh on the scales of perception So you have this scale with you. The jewels of the Dominican names. You see these qualities in the object. It's definitely a product of wisdom. It's definitely a product of artistry. It's definitely a product of power. All these different qualities that you observe, and then which are all like hidden treasures. And you feel like there is something more beyond. As you contemplate more, you see more. As you contemplate more, as you take more steps, you perceive, you realize, you gain more and more. You get an active relationship with the object. It's not just an object anymore for you. You're not just using and having a utility out of it. You see that there's a treasure there you can reach. But as you reach, as you get some, you know there is more. There's always a hidden treasure aspect of it. And then to appreciatively affirm their value with the discerning heart, just being honest to yourself, saying that this is something really valuable. This is something really valuable because I appreciate it. It perfectly fits whatever I need, whatever I am for. So now you are fulfilling your duty. This is what I understand from fulfilling duty. Like you respecting what you have and you respecting what you see there. And both respects, when they come together, you fulfilling a duty of the object, you fulfilling the duty of your ability. You say to yourself, yes, now whatever I do, it is good. It is something I can accept. I'm on the right path.
So, along the same lines, when you see that beautiful flower in the street, and then you're saying the person walking next to you how beautiful it is, I'm taking you one paragraph before where you said, so proclaiming and being a herald for the unique arts. So as if it's another duty for me to be once I appreciate the beauty of the, let's now take it one step further, source of beauty. I am appreciating the source of beauty. It doesn't stay in me. I want to proclaim it to anyone or anything around me. I want to share it with others. And this is part of my worship, because I am as if by that I am showing my neediness. I was so much in need of such a thing. I am so much appreciative of it, so that I am sharing it with you and others and everyone. And this is my, again, worship in the absence of the object. So it's still, because this is, like it can, this is the case for the absolute source, but also I am thinking of other things in my life which I appreciate so much, and out of my appreciation I just share it with people. What's the point of me sharing this with other people? As if through that I am trying to make it more, I'm trying to interact with it actually. I am trying to increase this beauty or its taste in me by sharing it with other people. This is why I would give, you will hear a lot of examples from me regarding either the Matrix or the Lord of the Rings, let's say. These are the things that I appreciated with them having no relation whatsoever with absolute source. But still, I am so much in awe of those that as if by becoming a herald of them, I am interacting with them again and again. So I want to, because I want to enjoy the Matrix more, so whatever is the opportunity, like this one, for example, I am bringing it onto the table, and with remembering it through this heralding, I am increasing my joy in there, which makes me exist more, if you like. So in here, now let's move it to some real domain. So I am appreciating the beautiful one. So some beauty I observe, I am appreciating its true source, as much as I'm appreciative of it, I would like to share it with the people around me or with the things around me, or I would like to go and call azan, if you like literally or in a meaning wise. And this is what I think is, if we go now deeper, even further, the messenger proclaiming the message, being the herald of the message, is his duty, but a duty that he must be enjoying so much, or a way of him interacting with the source, actually. And we experience this as well. So, or let's say you listen to this discussion, you go to your home. As much as I am enjoying this discussion, I would love to share it with somebody else. What is the driving force behind that? Like, this attitude of sharing is a proclamation of my appreciation of the beauty and realization of my need. So I guess these are all manifestations of worship.
سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. الفاتحة.